Well, hi there. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you wouldn't mind. Also, I love you and God loves you, and enjoy the video. Okay, enjoy the video. Well, howdy ho there, folks. How are we doing today? Hope you're all doing absolutely peachy keen fantastic. Full of the love of the Lord and all that good stuff. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about good and bad habits. So, I am a creature of habit in many ways. I like my naps. I like, playing my games at certain times. And some of my habits aren't the best. For instance, for some reason, I have an absolute obsession with playing Warhammer and Warcry specifically, and I often find that I don't enjoy it a ton. It's like it's fun enough, but it feels like it's more about like the social aspect. And sometimes when you're playing with strangers online, that social aspect is very hit or miss. But there's also things where like I have on occasion really wanted to change or do something different, and then habit kicks in before too long. I've found that the most successful way for me to get better at things and to do more has typically been to initiate new habits into my life. For instance, like making it a habit to pray every day, like making it a habit to wake up and thank God and think about God and meditate on God for a little bit, like making it so like every day, no matter what, I get up and I want to do that. That's the first thing I want to do. And that makes the habit of like focusing on the Lord and coming back to the Lord come back to me far more often. And it's been really, really nice to be able to do this, to be able to realize that I can create new. And your hair is just like crystal. That's crazy. You're crazy. So that has been the most effective method of things for me, just to get a little bit more spirituality in my everyday life, and to try and make myself do better things. But because I'm a creature of habit, I've also noticed that I have certain bad habits. I really like snacking uh, late at night, and in particular, I tend to like to snack on things that are not the best for me. I am a cat who would easily fall into the sin of gluttony if things were just always available, which is why I have to like force myself there to not do that, to take a break, to look at other things and try to focus more on having good, healthy, happy habits. This has also been a thing where, Warhammer has been a part of my life for 22 years now. And even though overall I rather enjoy my Warhammers, I also find that sometimes I just sit there and complain. I go to a game store every week and we play Warcry. What is with all this? There's just like these little tiny spikes that lag. It's crazy. Not that big of a deal though. Anyway, we go and we play every week. And the game itself is fun. But it's kind of become a thing where we often really like to sit there and complain about Games Workshop. We sit there and complain about games and complain about like little things that are going on, giving them more attention than they probably deserve. And what I have found is that this is just kind of a bad habit. So, what do you do when you have a bad habit and you're trying to change it? Well, like one method I already suggested is that you can just replace it with another habit. And that's kind of what I've been thinking about doing. But what I have typically found is very effective is to just remain mindful. See, habits form over a great deal of time, and they can. It, I know there's like science out there. This is like what, like 2 weeks or something. You have to do something to make it a habit. I don't know. I'm not gonna give you an exact number because I don't know. But what I've been trying to do is I'm just trying not to be negative about that sort of thing. It's a pointless thing. There's something cathartic in being able to kind of whine about things you're into, or like, maybe you're really into Star Wars and that you feel like, as an example, like in a movie or an episode of a TV show or something, ruins a character that you really like. I had this happen to me with a certain Primarch when I was younger that I was really into. I felt in a lot of the books he was really cool, and then in one book he just felt like he went from being interesting and having all kinds of intricacies about him to just being a straight up cartoon villain. And it kind of ruins it. You could complain about that, but the simple truth is that complaining doesn't really help us now, does it? It's a negative habit. Some of us complain a lot. I remember I used to. Excuse me, I got distracted. I used to deal with a guy who complained every single day about everything. His motto was essentially, "You live your life, you get old, and then you die. It sucks." Like that was like his whole thing, and he was just exceptionally negative about everything. And it, what you realize is that people can create their own uh, hell out of heaven and heaven out of hell. People do this sort of thing a lot. They'll complain. They'll focus on the worst part of something. They'll make sure that that's the only thing people talk about. So the habit I've been trying to replace the negative habit of complaining with is trying to say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. This is kind of hard for me because I have. That was weird. The capture is slow. Oh, it's slowing down again. What is? Oh, that's weird. For some reason, process. I mean, maybe they just has to process more. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm trying not to complain. I have a very critical mind. I find myself picking at things and trying to make sense of them, analyze them. Often analyze them in a way that I would argue is probably more critical than is strictly warranted per se. Sometimes I'll just find myself picking apart something in one of my various little obsessions and just sitting there and rather than nerding out and enjoying something, I'm like, oh well, that's probably not how that should work, or blah 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 blah. So what we're trying to do is we're just trying to, instead of doing that, I want to name something positive about the thing I'm complaining about if I can, and well, stop the complaining. This is obviously the first part, and the other part is that I try to recognize when I'm complaining and just stop it. Just not allow myself to get swept up in the complaining and get swept up in negativity. Sometimes I find that it's a lot easier than other times. This is part of where mindfulness comes in, because you have to be mindful. If I require materials, can I get that off my screen? Thank you. Thank you. Now to rest. We're role playing. You gather around the campfire. One of you is going to be the adventure. Adventure happens. Anyway, so that's one thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to eliminate that bad habit. The other one that I find myself falling into sometimes is I'll get really into like looking at things, specifically miniatures, and thinking about buying them and spending like a lot of time thinking about that. Thankfully, I've gotten much better about buying them, and I don't buy anywhere near as often as I once did. Occasionally, I'll still want to buy something, but we're trying to just make that also no longer be a habit. Wasting our time thinking about things that we're not really even going to use. Basically, I play Warcry. I have the stuff I need for Warcry. I don't need anything else. I have no real use for anything else, but like occasionally I'll just feel the desire to buy something. This, of course, is also something I've noticed with a lot of different hobbies is that people, once they get started with it, they just have this tendency to just go overboard and buy more and more and more. Some people, they buy a little bit and they do actually take it in a reasonable way, but a lot of people just don't. And, we're trying to be better about that. We're trying not to do that. We're trying to make sure that we're only getting things we actually need. And another thing we're doing right now is I'm downsizing a lot. Which helps with the buying things. I'm like, well, I could get a book on this, or I could buy a miniature for this. But then I stop and I go, wait a minute, I don't want that because I'm already getting rid of all this stuff. I don't need more. And I think one of the things that's so bad about the little bad habits is that I know that a lot of people have them and they end up being a distraction from things that are actually important. It makes it so that you just can't spend the time you need to do on the things you need to do. A lot of people don't want to take the time to do the things that will improve their skills and things like that. They want to take their time just mess around on YouTube or to buy something or to do whatever. There's all kinds of little things that we end up doing to ourselves that actually don't help us very much, right? So that's why we should always make sure that we're trying to encourage good habits in ourselves. Start with small things. Do like little improvements every day. You know, you don't have to, immediately start training for the marathon. If you feel like you're not moving around enough, maybe you can start like watching your steps and like try something small, or just add a few steps. Oh, and by a few, I mean like like 1,000 or something like that, which sounds like a crazy amount to some people, but really 1,000 steps is not that much. Or do like a few push-ups every now and again. Do a little something. There's like these little exercises that you can do. Um, you can like set long little timers to help you get some exercise. You can look at your life and see where are you doing things that you are like. What is your like real goal? What are you like really working towards? What do you want? And if you have a bunch of things in your life that you're doing that are maybe pleasurable in the short term but don't benefit you in the long term or don't help you get towards that goal, those can be really good to examine and to try to overcome and not do. You know, it's the same thing with like pretty much anytime you're trying to start out towards a goal, is that you have to make it A, attainable, and B, like measurable. So if you're measuring your progress towards a goal and you're finding that it's not getting as much as you want, you can start looking at the things around you and see what are you wasting time on? What are you doing that is not actually benefiting you? What are you doing that is not actually, you know, helping you reach your goal? Once you know what that is, you can start cutting it out. And that's not to say that you have to cut it out entirely. Some things are, it's more that you're spending too much time on something rather than like that you shouldn't be spending any time on. Hanging out with your friends, playing video games with your friends or something like that. That's not a bad thing. But if you're doing it so much that it's like robbing you of progress in another area, you need to, you know, not do that. It was probably one of the similar things I keep mentioning where that was the thing I wasted a lot of time on. Um, is that I found that I wasn't enjoying it that much, and then on top of that, it was like so many hours of time spent in this stuff that wasn't really helping me and wasn't helping me achieve my goals spiritually or otherwise. And a lot of these bad habits, the thing that's annoying for some people is that they're going to take time to break, but not just that, but there's a lot of people who know that they need to change something but are not very motivated to do it. So they try to force themselves. And this can work rarely, but in truth, you need to really want to change. You need to really want to do something and achieve something rather than simply because you think you should, or because maybe you look around the people around you and you think it's like something that would be better for them or improve your relationship with them. You shouldn't try to change yourself for that. Of course, if you're harming people or you're doing something that is making their lives worse, don't, you examine why you're doing it and try to stop. Do your best to stop that, of course. But ultimately, with a lot of these things, if you don't start with the motivation to actually do them, it's just not going to work. It's like I've known plenty of people who said that they wanted to stop doing XYZ thing, whether it was drugs. I've met a couple people who wanted to stop swearing or swear less, or all these other things. And of course, those are a wide variety of importance. There's some things are minor, some things are major, some things are like if you don't change, you're gonna die, etc. So what do you need? You need to figure out what you need to change. You need to figure out why you want to change so that it can be a motivation for you. And then you need to put a good goal forward that changing can help you to, by making these changes you get closer to. Whether it's a short term goal or a long term goal, it's very important to try and set up the proper stage for your development. I've seen a lot of people who will go through and try to change, but because they didn't put the proper steps forward or they don't have a real motivation to it, they know, for instance, some people know that they should be quitting smoking, but they don't quit smoking because they don't actually want to quit smoking. They just feel like they should. That doesn't work as well as having a real goal and motivation in mind and a real reason to stop doing what you're doing. And not just that, but also a reason to do the good habits and to keep those going. Because that also costs work. That also takes time. It's not so simple as just like, oh, I'll just do it whenever. No, you got to make the time. You only have 24 hours in the day, and you're already spending all those 24 hours. Something might have to be sacrificed for you to truly grow in the way that you want to go. Not a mean Jimmy Dean. Well, thanks so much for stopping by. I hope that you all have an absolutely wonderful day. And I hope you know that I love you and God loves you. And bye bye, love you, bye. Have a great one, bye. Wait, 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 wait. And then I'll wait with my lady, bye bye. God loves you, bye.